Yes, yes, my friends, you know the dealio. The webinar is being recorded. Office hours are being recorded. And if you do not wish to be recorded, please turn off your video and change your name. Now, that is mostly for the end of the session where we bring everyone on. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Friends, it is 2021. Yes. All right. We did it. I'm very excited here. Office hours, Monday, January 4th, Bente Un. Monday, January 4th, Bente Un. And as I reflect on last year, Bente, there were some ups and there were some downs. But what was great about it is that we have established a wonderful community. We have this beautiful community of pizza people, bro, dough bros, pizza geeks that like to take notes and like to they ask questions. You know the deal. It's me. I'm just the kid, Justin Clark Trey, always kicking at that pizza frequency. And I have a sneaking suspicion that you, my friends, also vibrate at that pizza frequency. What does that mean, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. It means I like to talk about making pizza. Means I like to make pizza and eat pizza, but mostly I like to share pizza with people that I give a ship about. And pizza, not unlike the game of golf, not that I play golf, but pizza, not unlike the game of golf, is a journey that you can only participate in, that you can only continue to play, one that you will never win at. Maybe you will. Maybe one day you will have the best pizza that you've ever made. And then you will go on a mythic quest to attempt to recreate it. That's why it can be maddening and it can be frustrating. But oh, this quest will be delicious, my friends. You know the deal. I'm your co-host, your cohort, your co-conspirator, your partner in crime. Yes, yes, yes. It is Justin Dre, the clown prince of the pizza party, the court jester of the pizza party. You know what I say? Have pizza wheel party. That's the dealio. Sing us a song of a pizza person and let's make some pie tonight because we're all in the mood for a slice or three or four or five, and we brought our appetite vibrating, kicking it at that pizza frequency. My goodness, I'm just excited. We had a great year. Bente was really great for pizza with us with the Zoom classes. I feel like we established a good rapport with a bunch of people. We did 60. I don't even know how many. We did a lot of Zoom classes. I ask if it's not on Zoom, does it even happen? And if it's not delicious, what is it? Yay, you bake, you make, you burn, you learn. In the words of Chris Bianco, I said you bake, you make, or you make, you bake. I don't know. He said you burn, you learn. But in the twixt, right? That's me and Noel. That's the slow rise in the pizza frequency. And in the twixt, we make beautiful pies to get her. All right, here's the dealio. These are office hours. What we like to do is we like to focus on people that have either been to our classes or have taken our on-demand classes. And what we do is we do the Q&A. Usually what happens, we invite the participants over. If you've never been to a class with us, what we do is we have everybody come over and we ask them to turn on their cameras, not their microphones. This is during class. This is during a class. And then we have back and forth. We'll give a little witty repartee, and then we'll make some pizza, and we'll show you guys some techniques. And then we'll ask you to show us and unmute your camera so we can give the back and forth. However, because these are free open office hours that we want to give, Noel just got bogged down. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions. Pizza, like I said, it's a quest. It's a quest. There are variables in your pizza equation, and we are going to help you fill them into your pizza equation. However, Noel is just spending way too much time on the old computer, the fingies, answering emails and such. Blah, 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 blah. There's just another email. Gosh, it gets to be a lot. So we have these office hours. So here's what we're going to do. If you have a question, do not list 10,000 questions. Don't list 4 questions. Say this is Joanne. I took intermediate 2 with you guys. It was either an on-demand class or not. I took the bar class with Adam Kuban, and here is my one question. It's just the way for us to do it because the questions will get lost. So please only ask one question. If we need clarification, or if we think it is not that they're not all valid, but if it's something that we can expand upon and really has a learning moment, we might invite you to participate with us, show your camera, if we have some more questions about your question, because a lot of times in pizza, the answer involves more questions. So I would also like to encourage you all to please use the chat to create this community. Hey, I'm so forth from this place, and I like this style of pizza. Because when we say pizza, when we talk of pizza, when I say pizza, the image that comes to my brain head is probably not the image that comes to your brain head. And the pizza that is delicious to me might not be the pizza that's delicious to you. You might like thin crust. I might like, cracker crust, and somebody in between might like a New York style that's not as thin and not as thick, right? You say grandma, somebody says Roman. That's the deal. Because I'm always thinking about that thin crust and getting gaga for that grandma, getting randy for that Roman, getting dirty on that Detroit in that deep dish, and just going bonkers for that bar pot. There are all these different styles and tastes and textures. So just remember, this is a very subjective game. So introduce yourselves, use the chat. I'm so forth from this one. If somebody asks something in the chat or asks something in the Q&A that we're discussing, feel free to give your 2 3/4 cents or your 4 cents. Hey, this is my regional style. Or somebody says, where can I get this cheese? Hey, here's a link. What about pepperonis? Oh, hey, here's a link. And hey, guys, introduce yourself. Throw your Instagram URL in there. Let's create this community. Let's help each other out. Let's be there for one another. We say that there are no secrets here. There are no secrets in the pizza game. Come to us, ask us questions, take our classes. We're going to tell you what the what is, or the way that the journey that we're taking on our pizza quest. And they might not be the right answers for everyone, but hey, we are going to be doing our darndest. So that's the dealio. Going in the Q&A for the questions. Right? The chat is for you all to kind of chat back and forth amongst yourself. Let's get some of those Instagram URLs up there so we can use the community to make some more pizza friends. All right. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring them on. And I know you guys are probably saying, no, Justin, don't. Whatever you do, don't bring Noel on, because he's not as handsome as you. He's definitely not as funny as you. He can probably make better pizza than you, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad. But guess what? I'm dashing hopes. I'm breaking hearts. This is the nature of the bee's knees. That's just the way. That's the way the donkey bounces. Okay. You guys know what I'm talking about. Without any further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, first time in Bente Un. January 4th, 2021. Noel, Mr. Slow Rise himself, Noel Slow Rise Pizza Brohner. Come on down, Bluebella Pizza Nest.
Justin.
There, it worked. What do you got? What are you making?
My Bluebell didn't come in from Amazon, so.
Uh-oh.
Guess what I have here?
Those look like yesterday's focaccia.
Breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs.
There you go. There we go.
See how beautiful they are? This is actually the cheese bread.
Oh man.
Smells so good.
So when you're making, you're gonna let those dry out, and then you're just gonna crunch them up and.
Yep. Make meatballs.
Oh man, hey, put me down for a couple meatballs. I love meatballs.
Sure, yes, sir. What kind of meat do you like in your balls?
It doesn't matter. You know me. I'm an all meat offender.
Well, hold on. What about turkey? Does that count for you?
Turkey. Turkey's fine in a meatball, but I think the reality is you need some of that guanciale you got in there to, you got it. Hey, right, balance and all things.
How do you know I have guanciale?
Because I saw you. We made pizza with it the other day.
Oh my God, that was so good.
Yeah, what did you put on there? You put like guanciale
and pecorino and basil, fresh basil.
Basil. Oh, that's it, right?
That was the precursor to the what's it called again? The margarita.
Oh yeah.
First class of 2021. I can't even get margarita out of my mouth.
Hey, look, you know what? You're doing a great job. I think that you need not. Don't beat yourself up about that. So, so how was 2020? I mean, geez, can you believe we made it through?
No, I really can't.
I know. Gosh, I mean, I feel like just yesterday we were doing our baby Zoom. We had our little Zoom baby legs crying.
It's funny you should mention that. Guess what I'm planning again?
What is it? Oh, are you already? So this is going to be March? Oh my
Wait,
lord.
wait, hold on. What are you even talking about, March? What are you even talking about? What are you talking about, Justin?
Because that's when we did the Zoom 2020. We're doing the Pizza Zoom 2021.
Yup, I think so.
I think we got to do it. You putting the calls out?
I don't know. Did you get a room yet in Vegas?
Oh no, I did not get a room
I
in
hear the
Vegas.
discounts are
Are
massive right now.
astounding these days. Ugh, Vegas, it'll be back. It'll be back, hopefully. My goodness. Ah, I'm loving this. So people are using the chats. Great, Gregory. I just went on Gaga's on your Instagram. It looks beautiful. Oh, those beautiful squares. Man, look at those beautiful pies. So yeah, guys, don't be afraid to throw up your Instagram handle or your the URL works well in the chat. People can just click on it and follow you. Or if you're on the face space, don't be afraid to hit us up with those two. We love all forms of social medias. Even if you got a MySpace link or Friendster, if anybody's still kicking on the Friendster, I don't think many people are, but hey. So you've got some things in the works. Wow, this is the first I've heard that there might be a
Well,
Bente Un. You're putting the feelers out, huh?
putting the feelers out.
I feel like last year we're gonna have to come up with some new jokes because last year we were like when I was in Vegas and I had my pizza costume on and
Justin,
uh,
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Number one, I don't have any new jokes, so you're gonna have to write some for me.
oh man,
Number two, that's all you do is come up with new jokes. So why are you even worrying?
I'm just saying we had the whole thing last time with me being in Vegas, but I think that everybody's gonna smell that one coming
Well, hold on,
a
hold
long
on.
way.
You can still be in Vegas.
Okay. But
Just
hey, let's ixnay on the Vegas Bay joke gay. Can I say that?
not if you want to speak in Pig Latin, but you can say whatever you want. It's
I
Monday
think you
night.
I think you know what I'm saying.
I
Ixnay
think
Vegas hey. Joke bays.
Justin,
Let's
what are we doing today? What are we doing?
well, I just wanted to reminisce. Great job 2020. I think we did what 75 plus classes together at least, something like that.
I was counting the number of people that came. You'll never guess.
Uh,
We went over 1,000.
1,000 people on the whole thing, huh?
The whole thing.
Wow.
9 months.
Let's oh yeah. I mean, if we had the whole 12 months, we would have done like 14,000, I'm thinking.
14,000. I think your math is excellent as usual.
Always. Things like letters, numbers, I don't got them. So what are we looking forward to in Bente Un besides the super secret Pizza Zoom #2?
Yeah.
Ixnay on Pizza Zoom Bay, Bente Un gay.
I'm working on a lot of Zoom Pizza collabs. I've got a lot of feelers out for that as well.
Now the collabs are like, so we kind of have done the beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Beginner is like a hand mix. Intermediate is the improved mix, and then the advanced is the hyper mix, the spaz mix.
If you want to call it that, yep. Some people call it the intensive.
Right, the intensive mix, the hyper mix. So, and they go from the beginner is New York style. They're all beginner and intermediate are like a New York style, and the intermediate we use the mixer, and the beginner we use the hand, and then in the advanced we do a higher hydration dough, 80%, 85%.
All true.
Ultra
85.
mix.
It's been a while.
And then we've jumped off. We went way deep, and we started doing intermediate and advances part twos with all these collabs that Noel is talking about.
Which brings a lot of confusion because people are like, "Do I have to do number one before I do number two?" I'm like,
"Oh,
no,
I always do number one
to.
while I'm doing number two."
There you go.
Is that
slightly different, but pretty much the same?
Let me just see what's going on here.
Justin,
So
you plan this out ahead? Did you know you were going to have an extra set of glasses there? Or just came here?
The thing is I buy my glasses at this place called Costco, so I got like 10 of them, and my wife thinks that like when I leave my glasses there, they multiply because they'll be like a little little mountain of like 3 or 4 pairs of glasses. But I need them because I can't find them anywhere. I don't know what's going on. Can't see anything. So we're looking to collab a bunch in Bente Un.
Lots of collaborations. I'm working on a couple of Spanish breads. 2 of my favorites are Pan Cristal. So if you think 85% hydration is high, wait till you get to 100.
Get out of town.
Pan de Cristal or Pan Cristal, depending on where you're from.
That's
So I'm
crystal
working on that one.
crystal bread.
Yep, it's crystal bread. And
Come on.
then there is this beautiful sweet bread called Coca de Forner. It's one of these breads that Spanish bakers use to test the oven. It's super crispy,
Mm-hmm.
not unlike Adam's bar pie, but it has a little bit of either anise liqueur and sugar, or sometimes they use like a crushed star anise and sugar. But usually it's some sugar and that the super floral, super like anise laced liqueur. It is incredible.
What's it called?
Coca?
That's the liqueur.
Nope. I think Coca de Forner. So Forner, I guess it means like of the bakery or of the baker. And we're gonna have to look up Coca because I'm not sure if the actual word is in Spanish or Catalan. So
Hmm.
Coca. Let's look it up. While I'm doing that, Justin, do we
Mm-hmm.
have any questions in the chat?
Yeah. Oh, no, not in the chat.
What? Oh, in the
We
Q&A?
Yo, there you go. There we go. What's really great is we're getting all these great Instagram. I'm just checking out everybody's Instagram profile that's putting it out there. So
Interesting.
thank you all so very much. Yeah, we've got some stuff. I want to say, Chris from Florida, Happy New Year. Happy New Year back to you, Chris. Thank you for jumping in there. Yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. L'chaim to life. This is big. I think we're all, hopefully, everybody's excited for all the possibilities once we can all get out there and have pizza parties together again. I'm really, really looking forward to that.
Justin, I
I
have an update. So Coca in Catalan means pastry. So it's a
Interesting.
breakfast pastry for the baker.
So, but what was the liqueur that you were saying, or the
Oh,
liquor
it was
that?
an anise-based liqueur, which is kind of
Yeah,
like licorice.
yeah. Is
That's
it
not in
like
the name.
an ouzo or something?
I mean, yes, but if for our purposes, yes. But the Greeks would say absolutely not, and the Catalans would say the Catalonians would say no way, Jose.
We have something called. I'll have to ask my wife. Uh, we have something that has a little anise and some dill and all kinds of crazy stuff
Dill?
in it.
Whoa, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah. I'll have to ask my friend in LA. Um,
Moonshine?
no, he makes it. He's got a gin. He makes gin,
I love it.
and he was one of those guys that just got hit with that $14,000 bill because he
I'll
was
bet.
making
I'll
friggin'.
bet.
That's the dumbest thing. I guess they reversed it. If anybody doesn't know what the what was, all these people that stepped up and were making hand sanitizer during this pandemic, they got, the FDA just gave them a $14,000 bill. I think that they've since said just ignore it. It was a mistake, but it's general buffoonery as far as I can tell.
Right again,
So
Justin. Right again.
general buffoonery. So your buddy and mine, Ben Daniels, who has been with us a lot. Uh-oh. Are you serious? Looks like I just lost my silly old mouse. But your buddy and yeah, I mean, like, of course, like, Apple is the worst. They're like, your mouse needs to be plugged in, and you can't plug it in until it's like, um, there we go. All right, Ben Daniels. Ben is asking us a question. I'm probably going to just ask the question and then bring Ben on because Ben has taken every single class pretty much that we've done. So Ben, stand by. But this is Ben's question, and this is a question a lot of people have. And I got to be honest, I don't really know the absolute answer to it. But I have a sneaking suspicion that Noel will have some insight. Hey, Noel,
We'll see.
Justin, Happy New Year's. Thank you, Benny. Back to you, brother. Hope you all been well. He's taking all the classes. Everybody else, Ben has taken all the classes and he still has questions. Wanted to ask about cooking in the uni oven. I have had issues either burning my bottom or not burning, but feeling like my dough isn't completely cooked. I would love some advice. So why don't we just bring Benny on and we can go over
Sure.
some of this because I think there's a lot. Everybody gets like an uni or a rock box and thinks that they can just make pizza just like that. And there's so many different steps to get there before. So I'm gonna see if I can find Ben, and I'm gonna promoting to panelist Benny. So here we go. Here we go. Ben, if you're there, let's see you, brother. Hey, look at that fresh face.
Hey
Happy
guys.
New Year. How's it going,
Happy
brother?
New Year.
Now I feel like I have to shave. I'll be right back. Go ahead.
I know.
Yeah.
Come on.
Although
Ben.
I actually want to show you something because my girlfriend was making fun of me. So I'm about to show you what used to just be like the side of my wall, which was just nothing. It was just 3 windows, and now it's just like a bunch of flour, a
Oh,
bunch
there
of
we go.
cans, and it's like none of
Nice.
that was there. And then like in
Nice table
May,
too.
Yeah.
yeah, and then in May I took a beginner pizza class, and then I took the intermediate advanced, and then I took every
Beginning of the
single other
end.
class. And I love it. I mean, it's great. So for anyone who's just hopping on, every class I feel like I learned something that makes me a better maker of bread and pizza, even if it's not related to what we're learning in that class.
Now you haven't quit your day job yet, right?
No, haven't quit my day job yet.
And
Just
working
checking.
working with spreadsheets, right? Hopefully.
Still making TV, still
Yeah.
making
Whew.
spreadsheets.
Man, I like that. I like that. There's hope for me. There's hope for me yet. So good
Indeed.
stuff. So my question for you, though, before we get into this uni thing, is number one, did you get a new mixer? And then number two, what uni do you have?
So I literally made an agreement with my girlfriend that if I won one of my fantasy football leagues, I would buy a new mixer. And so I did win one of my leagues, and I actually used the winnings. I ordered and should be getting in like 4 or 5 weeks one of the Sun Mix 6s. So I'm
Sweet.
very excited about that. I was able to find a good deal.
Sweet.
So that is on the way.
Awesome. Maybe Ben, you could put a link to that in the chat once we get off here.
Yeah, we'll do.
Just so people can understand what that is. I believe some other people had some of those in some of the classes that it's a larger. It's a spiral mixer. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. It's a spiral mixer, and I think Forza Pizza sells one. That's not where I ordered it because they're a little bit pricier, but
Sure.
Found a distributor who was able to give a good deal. But I just
Awesome.
put it in the chat.
Thank you. Everybody check that out. Noel will talk, there's the KitchenAid, which is like it's got the little curly Q. We've got the diving arm mixer. We've got the spiral mixer. We've got the planetary mixer. They're all different types of mixer, but this is the one that Ben went with. So Benny, ask us your question, and I'm going to let Noel.
Yeah. So I use the uni, and I feel like no matter sort of what route I go with, I either end up like sort of like with too much burntness on the bottom of the pizza, or like it's like a little bit undercooked. And I've tried a few different things, like with flour and no flour, and using semolina or not using semolina. And it's just sort of varying degrees. And I know that the different dough type will yield a different, sort of result. But what I tried to do over the past couple weeks was like I was using the like propane attachment so that I could just get it to like a really straight temperature and sort of be able to check it with the gun to just have it be very stable, instead of like where you're adding your own fuel, like either coal or wood, and it's really fluctuating, just to sort of get a baseline. But I feel like I was using as like a baseline, I was just using like the Poolish 2.0 dough that we did with Michele.
Yeah.
So I did like maybe like 3 different batches of that all felt really good and similar. And basically like I'd cook it, and like it would either I'd come out and the top would look absolutely perfect, and then the bottom would be like too black, or I would pull it out and the top would look like not so great, but the bottom wouldn't be burnt. And so that is sort of my question.
Couple questions. How big is your dough ball?
My dough balls for that are like 285.
All right. I would say there's too much dough in your dough ball, number one.
Okay.
So I would say, Justin, what do you think? I mean, I would say between 225 and 250 max.
I don't know. I mean, I was making pizzas. You're only making 12-inch pizza, right?
Or
do you have the
14 inch?
No,
not a 16. Definitely 12 to 13, 14 range.
So let's keep it quick, because I know we have a lot of questions to answer. So I'd say you have too much dough in there. All right.
Okay.
So if you would need to cook a pizza in an oven like that, it's missing a lot of what even home ovens are mixing. And so you have some direct heat from the bottom, but it's not enough thermal mass to give you enough direct heat or from the stone to actually cook it properly every time. So strike one on that. Strike two is that you have direct heat from the flame, but oftentimes it's too much. Right. And so if it's too hot, the outside of the pizza is going to cook faster than the inside. Right. So what you really want to have in your dough ball for those ovens is a lot of air and a lot less dough. And so I've even gone as little as 180 grams.
That's what I was going to say, like a $180, 200 for those balls.
Yeah.
And then it's so what I do. I mean, I've got the Unicoda, and I know Sarah's on here. She's talking about the Uni 16. So the Unicoda just has fire coming at the back. The Uni 16 has an L shaped. So what I've been doing is, the problem with the Unicoda is, so I have it on for a while all the way up, and then as soon as I launch, I turn it like all the way down. Now the problem is because the dial is on the back and you're trying to like look at the flame, it's a little daunting for me. Usually you need somebody else there because you can turn it down, but then inadvertently you might turn it off, or if you're looking in the thing, you might singe your beard hairs too, which I have done as well. You probably singed them all and then shaved them all off with embarrassment, Ben. You don't have to tell me, buddy. No, but so that's one of the ways that and I also, just to cheat, because you know me, I got a steel insert on that bad boy, and so it gets a lot of bottom heat, and as soon as I put it in, I launch, I turn that thing as down as I can, and then I make it dance as well as it can. And one of the things, maybe one of the little hacks that we had when we were doing Inez's thing, our buddy said, if you've got your turning peel, which I think is really important for using the unis, and I just got one, I know they're $65, but having a turning peel that you get hot on the flame a little bit before you go in there for your first turn will help to alleviate the burning on the bottom. And you just got to keep that, you got to keep it moving. I mean, those things are so compact, and I know you just got to keep it dancing in there. As to not, and here's another thing too, there's no shame for me, because I'm making it at my house. I will throw a screen in there. I'll throw a screen in there, and I'll let it get, if I'm trying to like mitigate the bottom and the top. So if the bottom's getting more done and it's not, I'll put the screen underneath the pie and finish cooking around the edge on a screen. So those are
I got another question for you, Benjamin. What is your approximate bake time?
It really varies, but for that pie, I had the oven at about 600, and I was baking for like 4 minutes.
Yeah, and all right. So another thing that I notice with those ovens is that if the fermentation isn't perfect, too much of the dough rests on the bottom, and you don't get the rise you want. And so what I notice is that if your dough is under fermented or over fermented, then the bottom burns, right? Or of course the first pie of the night, you're up because it's super hot in there. So I like Justin's idea of turning it blazing hot and then putting your pizza in and turning down, but that could create temperatures on the bottom up to 800 degrees or more.
Yeah. And I've definitely, and so really getting to know, like with my steel, if I don't need to heat it up for 45 minutes. Like if it's on blast, it might need 20 minutes, because if I let it go like an hour, like I do my oven, as soon as I put something down there, it goes black.
I do notice that if I generally would have like 6 balls from each batch of dough. And I do notice that like my last 3 pizzas are always better than my first 3 pizzas.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, this is super helpful. I am definitely going to give the smaller balls a whirl, and I always keep it dancing. I think that's just an automatic, because you have that huge heat source from the back. And I like that idea of like the pizza's got 3, points to it.
Quadrants.
So you want to move those around. Awesome. And then unsolicited for anybody else listening, because it was so good and I've done a bunch of them now, is the bar style pizza class that you're doing this weekend. Is like, I feel like I'm making perfect pizzas. Everybody loves them. I like that if you have like a person over, you can like pre-roll them and leave them in the pan and just make them casually. So highly recommend to everyone to take it. It's like, I feel like it's very easy to learn how to make a really good pie. So would highly recommend it. I've loved the pies I'm making in that style of dough for sure.
That's a great
And I
class.
don't get paid for that, anybody.
Yeah.
It's just
Well,
it's just honest.
Thank you.
That class is going to sell out again by Saturday for sure.
So one more thing just before. So Sarah's asking about the uni and cooking under the fire. Two things that you want to think about is relaxing the amount of sugar and oil that you have in the dough, because those will have a tendency to burn under that fire. Noel, Ben?
Yeah, and besides that, what I would say is that, true Neapolitan pizzas, they don't have, they use 00 flour, and most of that 00 flour doesn't have any malt. And so you might want to look at using unmalted flour, right? You can get that from Cairn Spring Mills. You can get that from Central Milling. You can get that from King Arthur. And so if you are getting too much browning or too much burning, remove the olive oil, remove the malt, remove the sugar, and see if that doesn't help.
Good stuff.
Good.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Happy New Year.
All right,
Ben,
Benny.
you
Happy
too.
New Year, brother. So, all right. We'll see you soon, brother. So Sarah had a similar question. Sarah took the beginner on demand class, and I have the Uni Coda 16 and would love some insight on the best Uni oven practices with pizza. So a couple things, lose the amount of oil, lose the amount of sugar, right? Use semolina instead of flour for your launching, because flour has a tendency to burn. Smaller dough size. And then keep the dough dancing. Keep the dough dancing, right? That means keep turning it, keep turning it, keep turning it. Any other things you would think of, Noel?
Nope. Is it the same question as the one before, Justin?
No, it's just Sarah. Sarah was just jumping on. She had an Uni question, and Ben had that Uni question. So I just wanted to kind of, I'm just trying to group them together. All right, here we go. Who else is next? All right. Here we go. So Reggie is saying, hey, this is Reggie. I took your intermediate class this summer. Okay, got a question on high hydration dough. 90%. That's high hydration. Why does water leak out from the dough after a couple of days? Interesting. My gluten would look broken and the dough just turns into mush.
Well, let's see. What
So
I would
that's
say,
two things. That's the intermediate class.
yeah.
Now think of that mix. And if he's using that mix at 90%.
All right. So why don't we get him on and let's ask him a few questions.
Okay.
Small class.
So
What do you say, Justin?
Reggie, if you're there, we're going to bring you on. Reggie, I'm going to find you in just a sec. Here we go. Reggie, hello. I just got to find you. There he is. All right, Reg, we're going to promote you to panelist. And if you wouldn't mind turning on your camera and turning on the old mic. So very interesting. Reggie, what's up, dude?
Hey,
How's it going?
How are you?
Happy New Year. We're doing well.
Here. Thank you so much.
All right, I got a few questions for you. So you took the intermediate class, which is an improved mix, but you're doing the high hydration dough, which is an advanced mix.
Yeah.
So number one, what mixing style are you using for high hydration dough at 90%?
Well, I read up about the intensive mixing method on some of the textbooks I have, and then I tried that with my KitchenAid. So I just beat the hell of it, and it worked.
Okay, good.
But that's at home, and when I take that technique to the restaurant, and we also have a different mixer at the restaurant. We have a globe mixer, which is a spiral mixer, which is very different. So I talked to some of the pizza chefs around the country, and they recommended me to use a technique where they treat the dough as in making a vinaigrette, which you add 60% of hydration for the dough, and then you slowly add the water to it as you would slowly add the oil to a vinaigrette into a blender. So I learned that technique on my own, and it came out great. The dough works. However, what the problem that I'm running into is that after a couple of days sitting in the fridge, the gluten will start to break, the dough will become very fragile. I'm almost thinking it's because the time in the fridge is too long.
No,
So
it's not that. It's not that. You
okay.
can go up to a week or two, and that wouldn't happen. So, a couple of
Okay.
questions. Number one, do you know what the temperature of your dough is at the end of your mix?
It's hovering around 72, and I
Okay.
always hold and stretch until
Okay.
it's below 70 before I say goodbye to it.
Okay, good. And then when you put it into the refrigerator, what is the approximate temperature of your refrigerator for 3 days?
37 Fahrenheit.
So that's good. So so far you're 2 for 2. What kind of flour are you using?
King Arthur special patent bread flour.
All right, so it's nice and strong, so that's good too. Here's the thing. So the vinaigrette method that you're using,
Yeah.
I would say that what you want to do is you want to put about 80% of the water in.
Okay.
Did you say 60%?
Yeah, I started with 60, and
Yeah,
I
so
let it rest.
60 is not quite enough. So 60 is too small. So why don't you try 80% so you're not over mixing the dough or in danger of over mixing the dough, and then add the last 20% over the course. Are you adding it on first speed or second speed?
Second speed.
All right. So second speed's okay. And are you adding it in very slowly?
Well, I just add 1 pint at a time until it's finished.
Okay. So here's what I would say. Instead
Yeah.
of adding a pint at a time, I would add a steady stream into the center of the mixer.
Yeah.
And so you're adding super slowly. You don't want to add it in large amounts. And I know a pint is not a large amount,
Yeah.
but the practice is a slow, steady stream.
Right.
All right.
Got it.
What you're describing to me after answering those questions means that there's something beyond the scope of what we're discussing that's affecting it. It's not temperature.
Yeah.
Do you know what amount of yeast you're putting into this dough?
0.5% to 0.7.
0.5.
0.5 to 0.7%.
Of what kind of yeast?
It's a self-instant.
Okay, so 0.5 to 0.7 is a lot of yeast. We don't our in our advanced class, I think we're at 0.3, Justin, or 0.33, right? So you're double that or more.
Okay.
So even though you're running at a low desired dough temperature, and even though you're fermenting very slowly, you have so much yeast in your dough that for me, that's the problem right there. Your dough is getting over fermented.
Yeah, we're using 0.3 in our advanced.
Yeah, and we're at 0.2 in the intermediate. So if you're at 0.5 to 0.7, you're using in some cases twice as much, if not more. So you're that's the answer right there.
I got it. Yeah.
It's not water, it's fermentation.
That's what I've been speculating, that the dough is overproofing too fast, so it becomes very fragile after a couple of days. I try to stretch and fold, and it just breaks apart.
Where'd you get the recipe?
It's funny because it's like Peter Reinhardt's perfect pie recipe, and then I incorporate that with this like YouTube video, British chef. I forgot his name.
Yep. And
then I also implemented the Ken Forkish, his pizza element. So it's kind of a combination of knowledge.
That's okay. Somewhere something got lost in translation, and that yeast is way too high. The maximum amount of yeast that I ever use is 0.4%.
Yeah.
Except if I'm doing like a quick dough, like a same day focaccia, which I never do, only for home bakers or like grandma style. Then I've heard of people going 0.5. For me, it's so dangerous because there's a tipping point and it doesn't last long. You get to the tipping point and you're over.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what's happening. Your dough's going over. What I would be curious to see is that dough would be great with that amount of yeast the next day. It
is. The dough is perfect for the next day.
Yeah.
On the third day, it's okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we're speaking the same language. Yeah, so that's a next day or a same day dough amount of yeast. 0.7 is beyond. That's not the next day. That's the next hour. That dough will be ready in 2 hours.
Right. Got it.
So I think we solved the mystery.
Yeah, got it. That's what I've been suspecting too. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Awesome, Reg. Good to see you again, bud.
See you too. Take care. Happy New Year.
Look at that. The class works.
There we go.
Figured it out. Next, Justin.
All right. Kimberly. Hi, Kimberly. Took the beginner class on demand. My question is about reading the dough. Okay. Reading the dough. Maybe
Ooh.
kneading the dough, but maybe reading the dough. When I'm doing the taco folds, that's the taco and turns. The first few are easy, and then the dough gets less stretchy.
Can we
So
get
that
her on, please? What
yeah,
do you
so that
think?
means yeah. So let's get Kimberly on. I'm just going to finish reading this question. That means that the
Yep.
gluten has developed adequately, correct? And then when the dough starts to tear, I need to stop. Tearing is bad. Yes. That is going to be a yes, but here we go. Kimberly, here you are. Kim, we're promoting you to panelists. Come on down.
Favorite part.
Come on down, Kimberly.
Here she is. She's muted. Hi,
Hello,
Kimberly.
Kimberly.
Hello.
Welcome. How are you? Uh-oh. How's that
Good, thank
internet
you.
connection? Good.
Thank you for taking my question.
Sure.
You're welcome. All right, so give us a little more detail. What's happening over there?
I think it's okay. I had just taken the class on demand, and I'm just learning how to read the pizza, how to read the dough. And so I was thinking as I was doing those taco turns and folds, the first one,
Kimberly, I apologize.
really
I think
easy,
your
and then it
connection is
starts to
not
get
very good.
thicker.
Justin, is Kimberly
Oh,
coming in pretty bad right
like
now?
that, stiffer.
Kimberly, you got to
And
hold
then
on for
that
1 sec.
stiffness
Kimberly, you got to hold on for 1
means
sec.
it's
I don't think she can hear
been
us. So I'm going to mute
developed.
Kimberly. Kimberly, I apologize. I'm muting you because you can't even hear us. And so what I suggest that you do is turn off your video because your internet
Oh,
connection is slow, and then you can unmute and
sorry.
just talk. That's okay. I want to hear your question and see you, but I can't do both. So let's hear your question.
Okay, sorry. I could hear you, but I think you just couldn't hear me.
I couldn't hear you.
That's fine. So as I'm doing those taco and turns, it's really loose. I'm getting a good stretch. And then as time goes on, it starts to get stiffer. And that means that that is what the gluten developing looks like.
Yes, yes. So let's backtrack because not everybody's taking the beginner class. So I'll just give a quick little summary. In the beginner class as well as the intermediate class, whether you're mixing by hand or whether you're mixing by machine, we are going for only about 80% of total gluten development at the end of either the hand mix or the machine mix, right? And if we're going to err on the side one way or the other, we're going to err on the side of underdevelopment. And so maybe instead of 80% development by hand, we only get 70 or 60 or even 50. That's okay because we're finishing the gluten development. We're dialing it in by stretch and fold. Are you with me, Kimberly?
Yes.
So the thing that people do with a mixer is they overdevelop in the mixer, and then they end up mixing out flavor, color, and aroma. And what we're trying to get people to do is undermix in the mixer, undermix by hand, dial in the exact gluten development they want using stretch and folds, and then they're good. That said, it takes a few times to learn to communicate with your dough and know when is your dough at 80%? What does 70% look like? What does 90 or 100% look like? Justin, what do you think?
Yeah, I try not to generally. But what we talk about, Kimbo, is that it's about listening to your dough. What is the dough telling you? When it starts to tear, you've gone way too far. So yeah, when it starts to, you can always do. We always say err on less. Like
We say that?
well, yeah. I mean, because it's like when we mix, we only mix to 80% of our, and then we finish through stretch and folds. Like what what we stress is that, maybe you don't need 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off. Maybe you need 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off, 3 minutes on, 5 minutes off, 1 minute on, 5 minutes off. And then instead of 18 tacos and turns, you might need 10 tacos and turns, put it down for 5 minutes. Then you need 3 tacos and turns. It is a sliding scale, and one size doesn't necessarily fit all. But yes, looking for things of the stiffness of the dough or incorporation, how much the water has been incorporated in the early stages. And then when the dough starts tearing, you just let it be. Like, remember what Paul McCartney said, if the dough starts to tear a little bit, you let it be.
Good. Kimberly, any
Sure.
follow-up questions?
No, that's good. I think it's just going to take more experience.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get the start of reading that dough and
Yeah.
what are signs that I need to stop.
Yeah.
When you feel your dough strengthening, take note. When you feel your dough getting firm, here's what I'd say, just stop. And then you can always finish by stretch and fold. And what I do in my classes is I usually do a hand mix to maybe 40 or 50% just to prove a point, and then I do stretch and folds like 3, 4, 5, even as many as 6, because you can't overdo it on the stretch and folds, but you can overdo it
Oh.
on the mixing even by hand.
Okay.
Are you doing a full batch or a half batch?
I did a full.
Oh, that's good. You must be very strong if you're over mixing a full batch.
Well, I'm a personal trainer also.
Aha! See, Justin? No,
There you
because
go.
most people don't overmix a full batch. They overmix a half batch. But if she's a personal trainer, then she's very strong.
So maybe, I mean, and that could be a thing too. Maybe on the initial, maybe the first couple rounds of just, the incorporado, maybe you are mixing it a little heavier than it needs to be, So just, be gentle with the dough a little bit. You remember, love and nurture it too,
Because I didn't get, my dough balls were not as puffy as Noel's were at the end of
Well,
the.
hold on. Let's not like that. I mean, do your clients say, "Well, hold on, I don't have the stamina that Kimberly has, or I can't bench press or squat as much as Kimberly has, or can"?
No, I guess not.
I know, and I've been doing this for a long time,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So the puffy dough balls will come, right? It's not about it's really what I'm trying to teach people is to do less. Do less. When you I don't everybody takes different classes and I don't always say the same thing, but one of my pizza mentors is Jim Leahy. And Jim Leahy came up with this thing called the no need method. And I'm like low need, very little need, as little as possible. And he says, no, none. Just to prove a point. You can put the dough in bulk fermentation overnight and it gets a lot of strength. And then when you ball it correctly, you have a beautiful dough. So keep practicing, less is more. And one day the angels will sing and you'll say, finally, it took longer than I thought, but it happened.
And also, Kim, it could be, to get those dough balls to have that nice puffy, it might not be the mix as much as it might be the shaping and stuff like that. Once again, there are a lot of steps in there. So you could have an excellent mix, but then your shaping technique, maybe your pre-shape was off or something like that. And so then the gases for the burping and farting aren't getting as trapped as they could be. And so they might be escaping somewhere else. And so once again, it's different stages, different techniques at different stages to accomplish what you're looking for. So.
Yeah, Kimberly. One last thing: if you want those puffy balls, I'll give you a little hint. When we're doing the tacos and the turns and the mozzarellas and then the Nancy's.
Yes.
How are your Nancy's?
I don't know. I've only done them once, I guess, so they're probably not that great.
Okay, so here's what you want to do. The reason we do the Nancy is that you're pulling the dough back on the table to create surface tension, and by creating just the right amount of surface tension, you're trapping the gas, and you can feel the outside of the dough ball getting tighter as you drag it towards yourself and turn it, right? So try concentrating on that and see if you can get a little more surface tension when you're balling the dough, and that's going to help. So there's a lot of little things in there. I make it look easy, and unfortunately, it's not.
Sure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Come on back anytime, okay?
Well.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
Kimberly.
you. All right, Chris.
Good.
Chris Huppert. So Chris is here from Florida again. What's up, Chris? Good to see you. Taking the basic and intermediate on-demand classes.
Nice.
Using a starter and still hand mixing, should I add the starter with the flour and water for the initial mix and autolays, or should I wait and add it after the autolays?
Good.
Pulling the trigger on a mixer soon. Thinking of an Anchor Shrum over a KitchenAid.
Good. All right, so here's what I would say. The rule of thumb is starter goes in before the autolyse. The rule of thumb is that yeast goes in after the autolyse. Now, both of them are going to kickstart the fermentation, but because the starter has a lot of the hydration in it and we're trying to hydrate the flour, then I would say put it in before. Don't go crazy on the autolyse, all right? In some of the classes, we talk about doing a 10 or a 20-minute autolyse, and I do say you can go 2 hours, 4 hours, even overnight, but not with starter. So as long as you're doing a moderate autolyse, as long as you're controlling the fermentation with cold water, as long as you're nailing your DDT and not letting your temperature get too hot, you should be good by adding the starter before the autolyse. Excellent question.
Good question. Good stuff, Chris. Any thoughts on the anchor shroom?
Yeah, here's the thing I like about the KitchenAid. I've got one over here. It's a good all-purpose mixer, and for the price, you can do a lot with it. Some of those fancy German mixers and some of those like home spiral mixers are also awesome, and they do a really good job at mixing more gently. And so I would say that if you're only going to use your mixer for bread and pizza making and you really want to go for it, then you can consider one of those. But they are pretty pricey. And for my money, I think I spent $600 on that KitchenAid over there. I like it because I can do a lot of different things with it. I can beat eggs. I can make whipped cream. I can mix at 10 different speeds. I can use the whisk and the paddle and the dough hook. I can remove the bowl. So yeah, for me, it's the KitchenAid, but I get it. There's a lot of beautiful mixers out there. There's a lot of great technologies. So hopefully you won't spend too much money on it. But they're awesome. They're awesome.
I think I saw something on Facebook recently that just looking in some of the bread, forums and stuff, that someone had bought one and was recommending the how do you pronounce it? Anchor shroom. Here's what they look like if people are just interested in. I'll put it in the chat. All right, here we go. Scrum, I think is how it's pronounced. I think that's how it's pronounced.
You're putting it in the chat. Let's see.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Anchor Scrum.
You're adding some sort of Anchor Shrum. Anchor Shrum.
Looks like it's got a bunch of. It looks beautiful. You should buy me a couple, Noel, and then we'd know. Just get me a couple of those, and then I'll make some bread with it. So, all right, Alessandra. All right, hello. Hi, Noel. I did the New York style pizza. All right, I did a New York style. Okay, the dough rested for the whole night in the refrigerator, in the fridge after the 4 duffling. After the 4, I'm not sure what she's saying.
After the 4 double, yeah, probably after the 4 stretch and folds.
Okay. I took it out and then let it rest for 2 hours, and then I balled it and let it sit for 5 or 6 hours at room temp. Okay. I couldn't shape the dough in a circular shape, only flatbread shape.
Oh, let's bring Alessandra on and see if she wants to talk to us.
Alessandra, do you want to come and chat with us?
She's hurrying up and brushing her hair. I know.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think we might have. She might have jumped off. Yeah.
All right, so I believe Alessandra did the beginner class, and I think that she recently signed up for the intermediate. But I also think that she might have signed up for the on-demand beginner as well. So I think she's going back and kind of tracing her steps.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I would say. Once you let the dough come out for 5 or 6 hours, actually after letting it sit out for 2 hours before balling, that dough could get pretty loose.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so I mean,
Justin, don't you always say that when if that's too loose, that maybe instead of 5 or 6 hours at the end, maybe only 3 or 4?
Yeah, I mean, it's always, it comes back to that sliding scale, right? If you, especially after you ball it, I mean, usually what I do is I ball it, and then if I'm going to use it like the next day, I let it sit out for 2 hours. But if I'm gonna use it later, I ball it and then it goes right into the fridge, because that extra 2 hours after it's already been sitting out for 2 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess she took it out for 2 hours and then balled it and then let it sit for 5 or 6 hours. I mean, that's a total of 7 hours. And the reality is, if your kitchen is, say, 78 degrees or 76 degrees, that's really different than like 68 degrees too. So it's always a sliding scale. I mean, usually my rule of thumb is 4 hours, and I only let it sit after I ball it out for a couple hours if I'm going to use it the very next day. And some of the reasons that maybe she couldn't shape it in circular shape depends on what she was having them. I mean, if they just at 6 hours after 2 hours, I mean, that's a total of 8 hours being out. I I mean, it would just
You
kind
know,
of
you know what it could
relax
be.
totally. Yeah.
Too bad we can't check with her. But one of the things that we spend a lot of time with in the beginner class is how you take the dough ball out, and especially after sitting out for 2 hours plus 5 or 6. That's 7 or 8 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe you have to be super careful. Put it into the flour, gently
Sure.
push it as you turn the bowl around.
Kind of
Maybe
do a little reshaping as you're. I mean, that bowl trick. I mean, what I do is my dough balls proof in this, so it's proofing at a round shape. That's why I don't use a dough box where they become squares or whatever. So it proofs in this. It's automatically a round shape. I just dump it. I go like this. I dump it right into the flour just like that. So I have a round dough ball to begin with. So that's just one of the little hacks that I use. And obviously, you can't really do that in a professional environment unless you get some of those aluminum pans or something like that. But that's one way. I'm sure the flatbread, however, was delicioso, wouldn't you say? So, Alessandra, if you come back, jump. If anybody sees Alessandra,
yeah.
come on back. Come on back. All right. I'm going to go to your friend of mine, Dave Capps. It's Dave from Chicago. What it is, Dave Kaplan. Taking the beginning, the advanced, the bar pie, and just did the ADV1 online, advanced part 1.
Mhm.
Okay. So he's stumped on how, we'll probably bring Dave's on, how to calculate the pan pugliese 150% biga.
Good.
How do you calculate that against the flour amount?
Good. All right. Why don't we bring him on and we can talk to him? And while we're waiting for him, I'll just talk a little bit about some of these recipes.
Okay.
So let's
Where
see
is
here.
Dave Capps? There he is. Dave, we're bringing you on.
Dave, you there?
Dave, he's coming. Here we go. Here we go.
Dave, do you read me? Come in.
Come
in,
on
Dave.
down. There we go.
Hello, sir.
Dave
How are
Capps.
How you guys doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, my friend.
All right. So let's do a little bit of talk about bigas and pre-ferments and how you calculate them as a percentage of flour. Okay. Good. So I like to do the full batch recipe, which starts with 1,000 grams of flour because it's easy to do the math. All right. So let's start at the beginning, just like we do in the advanced class. All right. A classic baguette will use about 10 to 15% pre-ferment. Doesn't matter what kind. 10 to 15% pre-ferment. That would mean if it's 10%, it's 100 grams of pre-ferment. If it's 15, it's 150 grams of pre-ferment. 10 or 15% of the 1,000 grams of flour weight, right?
Mhm.
Then we talk about ciabatta, and we talk about Italian bread, and we talk about how some of those recipes are like 15 to 20% of flour weight in terms of pre-ferment. It could be pouliche, could be biga, could be pâte fermentée, could be sourdough. Doesn't really matter. 20% of 1,000 is always going to be 200 grams, right? Then we talk about some of the pizza recipes, right? We've got a friend down in Austin who makes awesome pizza, and he likes 30% pouliche. That's always going to be 300 grams on 1,000 grams of flour, right? Then we talk about some of the more advanced pizza doughs that go 40% levain, right? We talk about like a rustic sourdough loaf, like a country loaf in France, they go 40%, right? And so that would be 400 grams compared to 1,000 grams. Now, the last bread that we talk about is a super rustic Italian loaf with a really long shelf life. And one of the ways that they accomplish a really long shelf life, right? And also they're using a high hydration dough. So one of the ways they balance it is with a lot of pre-ferment, right? And a really stiff pre-ferment. So a classic biga is like 45 to 50%, right? But regardless of the hydration of the pre-ferment, right, whether it's 125% levain or a 50 or a 45% biga, if it says 150%, right, and the flour weight is Italian, and the flour weight is 1,000, that's going to mean 1,500 grams of biga, right, 1.5 times the weight. Now, I know why you're confused, because it's confusing. right? Because and one of the things I've been doing lately, I recognize your face from some of our classes, but one of the things I've been doing lately with some of the more advanced classes is I'm bringing in other recipes for reference. So what makes it confusing is that the Bread Bakers Guild of America, right, one of the oldest guilds in the United States, not only do they talk about flour and dough as a percentage of the flour weight, but they'll also say, yeah, it's 150% biga, but it's also 50% of the dough is pre-fermented. And then I'm like, whoa. So now they're talking about two kinds of percentage, right?
Yeah.
So it is confusing. Tell me if I've helped confuse you or I've helped illuminate the situation.
I think you kind of walked me through it in a way that I could see it. So then the biga is 1,500 grams, and half of that, or 50% of that, is water. Actually, I scaled everything down. So my biga was 500 flour, 250 water, with 500 grams total flour.
Yeah.
I think it's that. And then I've always, like in tartine, doesn't he use leaven as a percentage of the, like he treats it as an ingredient maybe? I was getting confused with pre-fermented flour versus, so I started going, well, I'm doing 10% pre-fermented flour in my sourdough. That's
don't do it that way.
leaven.
Don't do it that way. That's a whole other part, because the reason that I never like to talk about this stuff until the advanced class is usually one equation is enough, right? Then you add a pre-ferment, right? And the pre-ferment is its own equation, right?
Okay.
And then you end up having three different equations. You have the pre-ferment, you have what you add to the pre-ferment to make the dough, and then you have the total dough formula, right? One of them uses the pre-ferment as a percentage of flour, and then the final, right, dough formula just breaks it all down and doesn't break out the pre-ferment. And then to add insult to injury, they'd say, oh yeah, and 40% of your dough is pre-fermented. What? 40% of my dough or 40% of my flour? Well, it depends how you look at it.
Yeah.
So it's not easy to understand. I was confused about it for probably 6 months when I first started learning it.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out which path to follow. Do I do pre-fermented flour? Because then if I change my leaven's hydration, it made a little more sense to me. Or if I don't know.
I think you should think about pre-ferment as a percentage of flour.
Okay.
Right. And then if you want to ask yourself an even harder question, what percentage of my dough is pre-fermented? That's a whole nother thing.
Okay.
It's relevant on the grand scheme, but when you're trying to make lemonade and you're trying to scale up your batch, right? If I use 6 lemons compared to 300 lemons, how much sugar do I need? Then the relevant question isn't what percentage of my dough is pre-fermented. It's what is the percentage of levain or biga or pâte fermentée as a percentage of my flour. That's going to be more helpful for you.
Right. Okay, cool. Thanks.
No, thank you. That's a tough question. Appreciate it. No, it's
I
always
ordered
good to go
advanced.
It's
I ordered the book. I ordered the.
Oh, you ordered Advanced Bread and Pastry?
Yeah.
That's a great book.
Yeah. I
Get ready to get confused. It could be months or years before you come out of it. No, some of that stuff I still don't understand.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks.
Excellent, Dave. Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Take it easy. Nice seeing you guys.
Justin, I know you like that question.
Oh, you know me, I get very confused.
Me
you know,
too.
there's the pre-ferment, and then you have your total recipe with everything, and then
don't even do it. Don't even do it. Just next
I subtract
question.
my
Don't even do it. You're confusing.
Total dough minus the pre-ferment.
I'm ringing my blue bell. Stop.
The dough that we owe. It's always the
Justin,
dough we owe.
Justin, you know what? In 2021, you're going to be an advanced baker.
Good.
You're intermediate tonight.
We'll see.
That's my goal for you for the year. Advanced baker by the end of 2021.
Maybe we'll get there. We're
going to get there.
So, all right. Kamei says, all right. I emailed you some pictures of my last bake to info@SlowRise.
Thank you, Kamei.
I shared pics of the dough that we made in class last week compared to a sourdough pizza pie. Was hoping to get some insight into the differences that happened between the two. The sourdough appeared to be overproof, while the slow rise pizza turned out great.
Bring Kamei on. What do you say?
All right. Kamei, do you want to come on? I'm going to promote you to panelist. I do not have those photos.
I'm looking at them right now. They're beautiful.
But do you want to maybe share them so everybody?
Not yet. Let's talk a little bit first. Let's talk.
Kamei, hello. It's wonderful to see you again.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you.
So tell us a story. What's going on?
Okay, so the class was last Tuesday and Wednesday,
Yes.
and my leftover dough, I had put it in the freezer.
Yeah.
Over 24 hours, I took that dough out and put it in the fridge. Same with sourdough balls that I had in the freezer as well. And then around 2.5 hours or so before baking, I had them sit on the counter. And then, sorry, just looking at my notes here, I stretched the sourdough one at first. My oven rack was in the top third with a pizza stone, preheated at 550 convection. But then when I actually baked, I turned it to regular.
Yeah.
And baked at 500 for around 5 minutes, then changed it back to convection, did a low broil for the last bit just to like get a little more char. And if you're able to see the photos, if not, I can also share my screen. The sourdough pizza baked really flat. I had dimpled the whole pie, like including the crust, but it just like baked really flat, and it was kind of crispy, but not in a good way. There's no chew to the dough at all. So that's the sourdough unbaked. And then I baked the slow rise pizza second, and I dimpled only the base. So the crust was more of that New York Neapolitan style, and the crust was quite soft and chewy and puffy. So I guess I was curious, like, given that the time and everything was the same, if that might be too long. That was one thing I was kind of confused about from the class, is like just really understanding how much time it really needs to sit on the counter. And then like some ways you can tell if it's overproofed or like ready to be stretched, like do you do the poke test or whatever.
All right. So that's a lot to unpack. So let's have a quick look. So can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So what are we looking at right here?
So that's the sourdough pie
Good.
unbaked.
Okay. And this one here?
That's the sourdough baked. So you can see it's really thin. There's not like
Sure.
Yeah.
The color of the crumb, the color of the dough, it looks on the brown side to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's spelt, rye, and whole wheat in it as well, and no oil.
Okay. Is there spelt, rye, and whole wheat in both doughs, or just the sourdough?
Just the sourdough.
Okay. So here's something that happens with spelt, rye, and whole wheat when you put it in dough. It makes it more active, and it's going to ferment more quickly.
Okay.
And so possibly way more quickly. And so what you might have here is some over fermented dough.
Okay.
That would be my best guess, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to be careful, depending on how much whole wheat you add, depending on how much rye you add, depending on how much spelt you add, you can really change your dough. So Justin and I have some percentages that we like. I don't really go above 2% rye, 2% of the flour weight. Also, Justin and I love spelt. Justin uses it more than me. Justin, tell me if you think I'm overstating. I think that when you go up above 10%, it gets really soft, and it makes the dough sometimes less airy and just more extensible. It doesn't trap gas as well. So what I would say is the total, if you're making pizza, you want to keep it around 20% of the flour. 20% of the flour weight should be a combination of whole wheat, spelt, and rye, no more. And I would keep rye around 2%.
Okay.
Now, another thing, this is pretty advanced. What kind of flour did you use in your levain, in your sourdough starter?
Just bread flour and whole wheat flour.
Bread and whole wheat. Okay. And so was it equal parts?
Yes.
Okay, so again, you're making a really active starter, not just your dough, but your starter. So that sounds a lot like the tartine method. Do you happen to have that book?
I don't have the tartine book, but I have the book that where I got this recipe from.
Got it. Okay, and so here's what I would say: you're playing with fire, and
Okay.
so I like that you're using. Whenever I cook with whole wheat flour and rye, I love to use sourdough. So I think you're doing it right. What percentage of sourdough did you use as a percentage of flour?
20%.
All right, so that's really good. How was it warm in your kitchen? Do you remember how warm your dough was when it came out?
So the dough was pretty cold. I forgot to
good.
pick the dough temperature.
That's okay.
But
But it was
the
pretty
room-
cold.
Yeah, the room I think was around 75 to 78.
Okay. So the dough is cooler than that.
Yes.
All right. So I think we've unraveled a few things. Let's look at the other pizza now. So now I'm looking at a different pizza. This looks like it might be the yeasted pizza.
That's actually the sourdough one.
That's actually the sourdough. How about that one at the end?
That's the yeasted one from the class.
All right. So the yeasted one from the class looks a lot healthier.
Hmm.
I can't see the bottom, but it looks like it's got a lot more air in it, which is kind of typical. One of the things I like to do, and I think you would probably appreciate this, do this next time. Do a half and half version. Do half yeast and half starter. So instead of 20% starter, do 10% starter. And instead of 0.2% instant dry yeast, do 0.1. That'll be a nice little 50-50 mix. Keep everything else the same and see if you have better results.
You said 0.1%?
0.1% instant dry yeast and 10% sourdough starter.
Okay.
Now, Justin, I'm going to pass this one to you. What is our recommendation if somebody is using a sourdough starter with 100% with levain at 100% hydration? What do we do with the flour and the water?
We nix it. We subtract it.
All right. So, Kamei, did you subtract out 100 grams of water and 100 grams of flour from the original recipe?
No, because the original recipe was already a sourdough recipe.
Okay. So do you know what the actual hydration is of your recipe you were using?
70%.
Oh, that's another thing. So we went from 65% in the recipe we were doing to 70% in your recipe.
Mm.
So because the hydration was also higher, then your dough is going to be more relaxed. And maybe with the same amount of fermentation, it's either going to need stronger mixing, less time after it comes out of the refrigerator, or some other thing to make up for a whopping 5%, because that's a lot.
Okay.
So what I would do is I would subtract 5% of the hydration from your sourdough, right? So if your total recipe is I don't know, 1,000 grams of flour, take out 50 grams of water from your recipe.
Okay.
And see if that helps.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. So the sourdough starter in general makes for a more extensible dough, which is good. But if you're already at 70% and you're adding more extensibility to that, you might be like just past the tipping point.
Gotcha. And then I have two follow-on questions. One, how can you tell when the dough is like ready to be stretched? And yeah.
The best way to tell is with your finger. Put a little water or flour on your finger, press the dough, and if the depression stays, if it doesn't push back, it's ready.
Okay. And then one other thing that I've noticed when I'm baking in the oven is that even if I'm not baking for a very long time, like let's say even 8 minutes max, the crust gets kind of like hard. And like I said, like for some reason it's not really dry, but there's no chew to the crust.
Let's see. What kind of oven do you have?
I have like an oven that can have a convection setting.
Is it an electric oven?
Yes.
Okay. So electric oven is a very dry heat.
Okay.
So one of the things we talk about in class is sometimes if you can introduce a little bit of steam into your oven, that will help. So one of the things I like to do is bake off some vegetables, roast some vegetables in the oven before I make a pizza, right? And that'll help add some moisture into the oven. You could take a spray bottle and kind of spray the inside of your oven.
Mm-hmm.
You could take a sheet pan and put some ice in it and drop that into your oven at the beginning of your bake, and that'll add some moisture in your oven. So that's the first thing I would try. Two things it'll do. The moisture in the oven will allow the dough to rise a little more and the outside won't dry out so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And then once all of the water evaporates and all the steam dries out, then the crispy dough will set. So if you have a really dry oven, which electric tends to be compared to gas, you might just be prematurely drying out your pizza.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome.
All right. And be careful of that convection, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All good questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great
Welcome.
stuff. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy
Well, I guess we saw you. Well, no, that was before Christmas. All right, Kamei, thank you.
Thank you, Kamei. Excellent.
All right, so Gregory is asking this. Hello, Noel. Gregory here. I took the beginner class video on demand.
Amazing. So many
Okay,
people doing
so this is the beginner class, but now this is more of an advanced, I would say,
that. Let's
question.
hear it. Let's hear it.
What is the max amount of biga that you would recommend? With my current dough recipe, I'm pre-fermenting all my flour that I milled.
Hold on.
Pre-fermenting.
While you're talking, can we bring him on?
Yeah.
And then we'll do a follow-up question with him
Let us
personally. 'Cause
see.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. Let me just see. GGG Gregory. All right, so here we go. Promoting you to panelist. With my current dough recipe, I'm pre-fermenting all my flour that I milled. Mixing is a huge pain, but I do it. I haven't noticed any downsides to this other than mixing over 30 pounds by hand. Oh my goodness, Greg. And this way is very difficult. So, hello, my friend. Hello.
How's it going? Sorry for that.
No worries.
So, in your own words, tell us what you're doing.
So I mill the flour. I mill all the flour, and then I pre-ferment all of it with just water. About 45% of the water, and then yeast, fresh yeast, so cake yeast, and then I let it sit in the fridge for 2 days, and then I add the rest of the water, the salt, and the oil after 2 days, and then let it sit another 3.
All right. Now, what's the issue you're having, or what's the question you have?
No, the question is just so I haven't noticed it. This was kind of an experimental method, and I haven't noticed any downsides, but I didn't know. It's kind of a new frontier as far as what I could find as far as like doing that much biga, and I didn't know if there's just any downsides to it or what you would say about that.
Well, so the thing about biga is that the Italians use it to add strength to the flour,
Right.
or to the dough, and it's meant to be used when in high amounts when you're going to mix and bake on the same day. So I like that technique. I think it works well. If you're using American flour, sometimes it can create dough that's too strong. So you just want to be super careful how you introduce your biga and at what amount it would be too strong. So in general, I like pre-ferments between the amounts of maybe 1 or 2% if you're doing a room temperature rise, up to maybe 40% maximum. All right, 40% of the flour weight. So if you have 1,000 grams of flour, I wouldn't go higher on the biga than about 400 grams. That would be the norm. All right. Now, if you're trying to get a lot of strength, or you want a lot of flavor, or you have to do a really fast mix, you don't have a lot of time, then you can go up to 100, even 150% biga. But those are extreme circumstances. So
The main reason I've been doing that is because milling all the flour on one, I try, it's easier to mill all the flour one day and not, have to mill flour 2 separate days because that takes up a lot of time. And so I just found it. So I was like, I'm just going to try it. And I haven't heard anybody else trying it. But it, like I said, the mixing really sucks because I'm doing it all by hand.
how does the pizza or the bread come out?
Is that what we see behind you, Greg?
Yeah. I don't know how to change that, but it comes out good. It's no matter what you do, because I'm doing it all by hand, the dough is still slightly lumpy.
Yeah.
Which I haven't tried the auto lease yet, which I'm very excited to do that. I think that's going to help get rid of some of those lumps a lot. But I think it's also going to make it a whole lot easier to mix, because I don't have an electric mixer, and I'd have to get one that's gigantic for the amount of pizza, because I do pizza pop-ups, and so it would. Yeah, so I'm doing it all by hand, and that much biga is tough. But
Where'd you get your recipe?
I made it.
Oh boy, is it based on anything?
No.
You're living a dangerous life.
Yeah.
So what I would say, do you have any access to cookbooks? You have any access to people who make pizza?
Yeah, a good friend of mine is Lee Hunsinger.
Yeah. Have you shown the recipe to him?
We've talked about it a little bit.
So Lee's an interesting guy because he grew up in the New York pizza tradition, no pre-ferments, active dry yeast, maybe fresh, and then he started working with Brian Spangler up in Portland, and Brian got him using a pouliche. So I don't think he knows much about other pre-ferments, although he's a very smart guy and a super fast learner and a great pizza maker. So if you start asking him about Levans or Bigas, he might just not give you the answer you're looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, in general, you want to try to start with some traditional recipe or technique, and then branch out from there. It's okay to go for the opposite way.
Oh, I did. I mean, this has been a growing process. I started out just using King Arthur's all-purpose. No, I started out with 00 and learning that wasn't what I wanted, and then King Arthur's organic high gluten, and now I'm milling my own, and so it's been a progression. And then I introduced the Biga method a few months ago, and so
here's a question: why did you introduce a Biga method?
I was hoping it would make it more digestible, make it taste better, and I would have to maybe ferment for less time.
All true. How much time do you want to ferment for?
Probably no more than 5 days.
Okay, here's the thing. If you're fermenting for that long, you don't need a pre-ferment.
Okay.
The idea with a pre-ferment, we talk about this in the Advanced 1 class, is that if you're mixing a same-day dough, then you need a pre-ferment. If you want that flavor, if you want that depth, right? If you want a good shelf life, there's a lot of things that pre-ferment brings. But like Lee uses a pre-ferment for a next day dough, and that's fine. But he likes to ferment the hell out of his dough. If you're going more than next day, if you're going 2 days, then technically all of your flour is pre-fermented because it's all been sitting for 24 or 48 or 72 or 96 hours. You don't need any pre-ferment unless you're looking for the flavor profile, right? The aroma that only Levain brings. Right? And so if you're talking about natural fermentation, that would be the only exception. But if you're using a yeasted biga or a pouliche, it's absolutely unnecessary. Some people would disagree, but most artisan bakers who know bread before pizza would agree. So I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying you're going against certain norms and you might be spinning your wheels unnecessarily. But the proof, as Justin likes to say, is in the pudding. How's your pizza? It's great.
The proof is in the pudding, and the truth is in the pie. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, if you're milling all that flour and it's working for you, and it looks like you're trying to do like that's a deep dish style pizza, correct?
The grandma.
It's a grandma pie. Okay, so it has. I mean, how's the crumb structure? Is the strength working for you?
Yeah, it's good. I'm just always trying to find ways of making it better.
Right. I mean, have you tried it with, instead of a biga, have you tried it, if you're looking for flavor, have you tried it with a pouliche?
I did. I felt like it didn't have as much strength.
Right. And so that goes back to what Noel was saying. That biga is really giving you strength. Right. So, I mean, that's what I say. I mean, if it's working for you, but, I mean, that does sound like, but if it's delicious pie, maybe that's the process.
Yeah, with a biga, you said earlier you wouldn't do like a 20-minute auto lease, and so what are you thinking, like a 5-minute?
No. So with what I was saying was, we were talking earlier about the Levain, and so I was saying with the Levain you could do 10 or 20 minutes, you could even do an hour, but I had talked about in some of the classes doing a 2-hour, a 4-hour, even a next day auto lease. That's what I wouldn't do if you're putting your pre-ferment in before the auto lease, because then you're actually starting the fermentation and you could lose control of it.
Okay, good. Last question. I'd like to take the next class. I just don't have electric mixer and stuff, and so that's why obviously I've just taken the beginner. And what do you guys recommend still taking it, or?
So no, you don't need for your purposes. It sounds like you're doing a lot by hand, and so there's a couple things that we do in the Intermediate 1 class. First, we teach you about the different mixing styles, and so whether you're mixing by hand or you're mixing with a mixer, it's important to understand what the 3 basic styles of mixing are. You can do an intensive mix with a small amount of dough if you're really strong and persistent, but it's easier in a hand mix. In an electric mixer. Now, the improved mix assumes that you're going to do a first speed mix and then an auto lease and then a second speed mix. So I don't know, maybe you're really strong from doing 30 pounds of dough by hand. So the thing, besides the different mixing styles that we teach in the class, we teach about the 14 steps of baking, and it's all about how all the different parts of the fermentation process fit together, right? So what do you accomplish in a first speed mix? What do you accomplish in an auto lease? What do you accomplish in a second speed mix? What do you accomplish in bulk fermentation? What do the stretch and folds really do? All right. What does a bulk retard do compared to regular old bulk fermentation? What about what happens after you retard? The dividing, the bench resting, the pre-shaping, the second bench rest. How do all these things work, right? And then we talk about, what all the different ingredients. What does a pre-ferment do? What do the different pre-ferments do? How do they relate to your overall dough? So it's really just trying to get people to focus on not just the time, but the temperatures and how they all fit together, and then trying to get people to understand how artisan bread baking techniques can be used in artisan pizza, and as I always say, without making like artisan flatbread. If you're making New York pizza, you still want it to be New York pizza. You just want it to be next level, better than what you're doing before you understand how all the pieces fit together. So you seem like a very thoughtful person. I can tell by the way that you're thinking about everything that I'm saying. You would probably get a lot out of it. And then as long as you take notes, right? Hopefully one day you can get on a mixer and actually see it in action.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love a huge Hobart when I can.
Or even, I mean, do you have access? Do any of your friends have mixers? I mean, what would it take?
Friends have KitchenAids and stuff. It's just for the amount of dough I make when I make these things. These guys are 18 inches, and I use
they're huge.
10 of at least 10 or 20 or so. Like so when we do pop-ups and stuff. So it's a lot of dough.
It's a lot of dough. Where are you guys doing your pop-ups?
We just do them in Nashville. We actually.
Really?
Yeah, we actually take over a coffee shop, restaurant, roastery usually, and
that's awesome. How often do you do them?
Well, because the situation, the pandemic, it's been not as often as we'd like, but we hope to get on it this year again. Do it every.
Sounds great. And what do you call that style of pizza? Is it Sicilian?
Grandma.
It's a grandma.
Yeah, it's not. I do make a Sicilian that has higher hydration, and it's like an L&B style, like upside down, like completely coated in sauce. And, but the grandma I just love because you just can put so much flavor. The sauce is super chunky. I use the Bianca di Napoli's, and it's got tons of garlic, and it's all about, because it's got a little more structural integrity, you can have a really chunky sauce.
Yeah.
I just love that.
I'm down with the chunky sauce for sure.
Most people in this part of the country don't know what a grandma is, so I'm showing them, or at least
doing it the hard way.
Yeah.
Well, it looks delicious.
Thank you,
Justin, did we get his Instagram?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Greg, did you put it in the?
I did. You guys are awesome, by the way. I really enjoyed that class.
We're trying to help people out one by one. So thanks for coming in and participating on this. What is our fourth Monday, Justin?
I know. I have no idea. I forgot. I don't know how to count. So.
Yeah, I forget sometimes too. Cool. So Greg, keep in touch for sure.
Yeah.
And we'd love to see you sometime in a future class, or just keep coming back to the Mondays, and we'll do our best to help you out.
Yeah. And when all this is over, we'll come to your pop-up in Nashville. I spent some fun times in Nashville. I was shooting a TV show. I'd eaten a lot of hot chicken and
good hot chicken.
Yeah, just like burning on the upside and on the downside. Ooh, I love it.
We'll make a hot chicken pizza.
No, that's what. Now you're talking. Now we're talking. I love it.
Your Instagram looks good. I like your pies. They're not too thick.
Yeah, no, I don't want them too thick. I want them, really in between.
That's and good. What kind of flour are you milling? It looks like it's got some nice amount of germ and bran in there, right?
Well, I've just dived in and had to learn about the sifting process. So now I have a big metal sifter, but I do a combination of Durham and white spring.
Nice. And
then for my bench flour, I do white winter because I want a lower gluten flour on the outside. And I do about a third Durham, about 2/3. So I'm using a lot of Durham.
Yeah, you are.
It's really strong, but I sift it extra fine. I tried to not do that because you waste so much of it. But
yeah,
I'm milling really fine. I'm sifting with 100 mesh, so it turns out really fine. But You just can't replace freshly milled flour. I mean,
Yeah, it's got
I've
great
used
flavor.
several flours. I've used the High Mountain flour from Central Milling. I've used King Arthur's high gluten. I used their artisan bread flour. I've used a bunch, and just the flavor from freshly milled flour is unbeatable.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Awesome.
One last question for you. What were you doing before you making pizza?
I work in film, actually. I've spent a good amount of time out in LA too.
Oh.
And
Got it.
moved to Nashville to shoot music videos and started making pizza as a hobby. It's taken over slowly.
That's
That's
awesome.
awesome.
I love it.
Jinx.
Yeah. We used to just bother Lee just at his pizzeria in Texas.
It's so funny.
Just
He's a
ask-
fun guy to bother.
Oh,
He
he's,
has a really high threshold for people bothering him too.
he's such a nice guy, though. See, he was the only one that I went to school in New York, and he's the only one that would make a grandma pie in that area in Texas.
Really?
So I just found his place and just started bothering him just as a fan. And so, yeah.
I love it. He's great. How often do you see him now?
Well, whenever I go back to Texas, for sure, because
Got it.
that's not just good pizza for Texas. That's good pizza.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
He
He's
actually
the best.
said that he wants to do a class with you.
We've been trying to. He's been so busy. Like he's one of those pizzerias that I think is busier since the pandemic started, if that's possible.
Well, he started his
He opened his Detroit thing, Thunderbirds, right?
oh, and it's good. It's really good. It's maybe the best Detroit style I've ever had.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, he's that guy. He's so understated too. Like he if you said that to him, he'd be like, no.
He has such a small kind of personality. Like he's such a talented guy. Yeah.
He's so
So
good.
his pizza place in Texas is Zoli's, right? Is that correct? So
And Thunderbird pies. Yeah.
yeah, I just put Lee's Instagram in the chat, but his place's name and Greg, what's the name of your pop up? Do you have?
Yeah. It's called Gaga's Grandma Pies, named after my grandma. She never
Oh.
had pizza in her life, but whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Greg put it in. It's the first one on the chat, but I'll go ahead and put it back in there, everybody, so y'all can.
Awesome.
So, and again, it's just really important. This is a community of people, and remember, just go out there and support if you can. Let's hey, not that there's anything wrong with Domino's if that's what you like, but try to hit the other spots up too, for sure. Come on.
Justin, I got a question for you. Is it time to start promoting people so we can start having
I
a
think
little
so. I think
chit
so.
chat?
Yeah, and Kathleen has a question, but I don't think Kathleen's taken any of our classes. So, Greg, if you just want to hang on, what we like to do now with the last half an hour, we just promote everybody to panelists. If you want to have your video on and just say, hey, you can. We kind of open it up. If you got a question, you kind of do the jazz hands, and we'll open it up. But Kathleen, because you were the last one in the open questions, we're going to get to you in just a minute. So I'm just promoting everybody to panelists. So let's see. Promoting to panelists. Kathleen's question is saying, hey there, I'm interested in a Scars New York style pizza. Scars meets a Staten Island thin and crispy. Okay, so I'm not sure what Scars is, and a Staten Island thin and crispy. What is that? What are
Hold
those
on,
guys?
I think I got this one, Justin. So let's see. So one of the things about the Staten Island classic pizzas is that they're using like super industrial flour, right? So like Pillsbury is one of them that you might want to use. Pretty high gluten, high protein. So that's one thing. And then the hydration is usually pretty low. That's one of the ways they get those thin and crispy doughs. So probably in the neighborhood of about 58% hydration, right? Nothing special about like the flour or the recipe, but they all know how to really stretch a pizza and bake a pizza and top a pizza. And so there's a lot there, more than you would think. So that's one thing. Now, Scars is like next generation New York pizza. And so what Scars is doing is, number one, not unlike Greg, they're milling some of their own flour.
He actually gifted me with some of his flour, and
Right?
one
That dude's awesome.
he put me on the Bianco di Napolis. Yeah, he's
There
awesome.
you go. So they're using, next level tomatoes, Bianco di Napoli. They're doing sourdough starter, which I'm pretty sure no one in Staten Island does. I know somebody from Staten Island is going to send me an angry email in the morning. Fine, I stand corrected. Also, Scars. I would say, based on their pizza, might be a little higher hydration than the 58% standard. So I wouldn't be surprised if they went 65, even 70. I don't know anything about their recipe, but I do know that if you are If you are trying to get to like next level and you're milling your own flour, and like Greg is talking about, like if you're leaving in a lot of the bran or the germ, or even a portion of it, it's going to drink up more water. So Kathleen, what you're talking about is definitely next level. And so you got to figure out which parts of the equation give you what you want. That low hydration and high protein flour is going to give you thin and crispy. That's good. But the home milled flour and the sourdough is going to give you like next level flavor and better shelf life and better aroma. And so maybe it's hard to bridge the gap, you know. So either you start with a low hydration and maybe add a little bit of sourdough, or maybe you raise the hydration and fool around with a little bit of, you know, maybe next level or higher quality flour that to mill in with, you know, what you're using for what we call performance flour. Kathleen, were you with us before?
Yeah, Kathleen, you were here with us last week, right?
Yeah, I was here last week.
And you emailed me some nice pictures of some pretty cool pizza in Staten Island, right?
Yeah, I think I still have them.
I'm a big
Yeah, no, I mean, I grew up. My family actually, part of them moved to Staten Island, so I used to eat a lot of Staten Island pizza growing up, and you never heard about it in the newspaper or in movies, but there's a lot of great family owned and run pizzerias in Staten Island for sure.
For sure, I agree.
Is anybody doing anything like Scars?
In Staten Island?
Yeah.
No. Well, there's a spot that just opened up by the ferry where I think they're like the first kind of natural leaven pizza spot.
Yeah.
On Staten Island, but they're like the first, and I know Staten Island's like definitely trying to bring a different crowd over across the waters. So yeah, they're experimenting. For sure.
You know what I would do if I were you? I would try to see if you could make really good like Staten Island style, and try to see if you can make good Scars style, and then figure out what element you like. You know.
Yeah.
Because if you introduce a lot of water into the Staten Island thin and crispy style, it's not going to be so thin and crispy anymore. Right?
Yeah.
So maybe you just want to introduce a sourdough starter and see how that works for you. You know?
Great tip.
And be careful of that freshly. Do you have a mill?
I do not have a mill.
So then do you have access to some relatively freshly milled flour? I know there's some good stuff going on the East Coast.
Yeah, there's Farmer Ground and other guys that are like at the farmers market and Union Square and stuff like that. Yeah. So
to start, I wouldn't go more than about 20% freshly milled with the performance flour. So maybe you mix a little bit of commercial flour with a little bit of stuff you buy at the farmers market and see where that tipping point is for you. 20%, 30%. I've gone as high as 50% with a sourdough, and people don't notice. But the flavor and the color does change a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Be careful. People get mad about changing stuff on pizza. Be careful. Excellent. Thank you, Kathleen.
Yeah, thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming back a second week in a row.
Thank you. The pizza office hours. Who knew? I think Noel's fingers did, right? I mean, that was really what it was. So
sounded like fun.
Yeah, come on. So right now, we don't have any other questions. So if anybody's got burning questions, let's see some jazz hands, and we'll go ahead and unmute you, or
You said that Scars uses a starter, but I thought he used cake yeast.
I don't know, because I don't go into strangers' restaurants and ask them what they use. I've just heard that he uses a sourdough starter. I might be wrong.
Okay.
It would make sense that he did not use a sourdough starter. His pizza is all the things I love about New York pizza, and then he just somehow gets a little more flavor and a little better texture into it. And so I never tasted sourdough, but you know what? If you use a small amount of sourdough and you don't go crazy with the fermentation, you might not ever know.
Awesome.
So when you find out what he uses, let me know.
Well, there's videos on YouTube of him making the dough, and he says he likes cake yeast because it reminds him just of. He's trying to embrace like what he grew up with, but just
that would make perfect sense.
So.
I know a lot of those, like, like next level New York guys are trying to do sourdough, or they're putting 00 flour in, or they're mixing in, freshly milled flour, or they're working with pre-ferments. So I also know a bunch of guys that change their recipes all the time. Have you been to Dan at Pizzeria Razza in Jersey City?
Yeah.
That guy has probably 3 doughs going at any moment. You guys should go if you haven't. Dan is amazing. He has a wood-fired oven, and he does like super next level Neapolitan pizza. He probably wouldn't call it that, but he uses sourdough, he uses yeast, he uses King Arthur, he uses organic, he uses pat fermente, he's just always using different things, but somehow gets pretty much the same results over and over again. He wouldn't tell you that, but I've only been there twice, and I had like probably 5 pizzas each time, and they were all just perfect. I don't know how he does it. I think he's just crazy like me.
Awesome. Let's go to Dom. Dom, why don't you unmute and let's ask you a question, my friend. I see the hands. Good thinking using the hands. That's a good way to do it. Jazz hands. Dom, are you there? Don?
Yeah, I'm here. Am
Okay.
I?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you
Great.
hear me? Awesome. Cool. This is great. First off, thank you for holding this and like helping out the community. It's great.
Yeah.
And my question is, what are the things to watch out for when auto leasing 00 flour? I typically auto lease in like sourdough batards, but I've yet to auto lease my pizza dough.
So here's the thing. The main reason for the auto lease is so you don't have to mix so much. And so there's a trade-off. The longer you auto lease, the less mixing you have to do. And the less mixing you have to do, the more extensible your dough should be. So those are the basic trade-offs. And so I wouldn't say you have to watch out for anything. If you're not putting any yeast into your auto lease, right, then the longer it goes, the better. I can't think of anything wrong with auto leasing. If I ever have the time, I'll go like a 4-hour auto lease and cut down my mix in half. And you get an awesome dough that has better flavor, definitely better color, always better aroma. And so what you want to watch out for is to see how powerful it is. And so I know guys that have done like overnight auto lease and barely have to mix the next day. And you can see the color of the dough is more yellow, more brown, more gold, less white. And that's using like King Arthur bread flour. I'm not even talking about adding anything like whole wheat or any kind of durum or any kind of whole wheat, nothing. You can just, the color of the dough is less white because you're introducing less oxygen into the dough. So that's what I would watch out for. The more you do it, how much does the quality of your dough improve? Yeah, there's no danger. Oh yeah, for sure.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to come back to Reggie. Reggie, if you would unmute, please.
Yes, hello again. So quick question. So I've been thinking about like how to expand the high hydration technique into a commercial setting where such as like how would you replicate a high hydration technique in a Domino pizza
very carefully. Justin and I did an 85% hydration dough last year in a hotel, right, Justin?
Mm-hmm.
And that was
we had
very
the mixer
hard.
The mixer was on the 5th floor, and these mixes that we were doing, the people underneath thought it was just like an orgy room or something, because we were mixing all 50 pounds of dough. It was at 85%. So
Right.
that person got a discount on the room. Let's just say.
Justin, that's not what he asked. That's not what
sorry.
he asked. But that's a good story. I do like that story.
You got a free pizza and a discount because it's
Here's what I would say when you're going high hydration. Like
Right.
when we go for 85% in an advanced class, or we go 90% or even 100%, that's one thing. We're making just a couple of pizzas and it's not on a professional level.
Yeah.
So I know Italian guys that would never go above like 74, 76%.
Right.
And I know American guys that would never go above 72%. For them, that's high hydration.
Right.
Those are the guys that started at 58. So it's all relative. All right. What I would say about hydration is don't have a number in your mind that you want to hit.
Right.
Have a texture that you're looking for, right?
Right.
Have a look that you're looking for, right? When you add more water, you get like a nice open crumb, you
Right.
get big bubbles on the outside. The issue you might have is that sometimes the dough might get really sticky,
Right.
right? Sometimes the dough might get really active, and so it ferments really fast, and so your window of opportunity is like
Yeah.
whoop, and then once it goes over the top, then boom, it slides down. So if you're going to try to do high hydration in a commercial kind of zone where you don't have people that are highly trained, just
Yeah.
tread softly. Don't go from 70 to 85. Go from 70 to 73.
That's something I just wanted to jump on. No, so Reg, if you got to get people that are dorks about dough,
Oh, yeah.
you can't have like Joe Schmo that comes off as like, yeah, I'm going to make pizza, because you have to figure out your make to bake, right? When are you baking it? Let's work backwards. Like Greg has a 5-day ferment for his, I mean, that's his thing. But you got to figure out if you're using a mixer and when, how long they're sitting and the temperatures, and then how long does it rest before you pan it and make it. But you have to have people that are willing to jump through those hoops with you.
Now hold on, Justin. Let me cut you off for 1 second. I want to bring on Josh Hernandez. I know he wasn't planning on getting on. Josh, if you can hear me, would you mind unmuting for a sec? So Josh is a guy that I've worked with. He's just finishing up running like 4 restaurants in the South. What's the hydration of the dough you've been working with, Josh?
So the Tampa dough is the dough here is around 63%.
And that's a Neapolitan dough, right?
Yeah, Neapolitan.
And you're using a sourdough starter, right?
Sourdough starter, but we had to bump it up to 65 in Charlotte.
There you go. So here's the funny thing. It's all relative. Most Neapolitan guys are 55, 58, 60% hydration, maybe 62. 65 for Neapolitan is pretty wet and sticky. Add a sourdough starter to it, it's almost like 67. So all things being relative, for Neapolitan, that's pretty high, right?
Yeah.
Then for New York, it's the same kind of thing. If you go 65, 67, that's pretty high. But for ciabatta, right, 67 would be low. Yeah, 72 would even be low. Yeah. So it really depends on the style you're looking for.
I was just wondering if there's a technology that you guys know about that, or being like curious about how to replicate a high hydration dough with robotic or artificial intelligence. Well,
hold on. Have you taken the advanced class yet?
No.
So before you get into robotics or artificial intelligence, you should take the advanced class and learn the traditional way to treat high hydration dough. And then from there you can go into something next level. But there are traditional ways to do it, like using a hyper mix or using a lot of stretch and folds or doing a long bulk retard. These are traditional ways that you can kind of tame the savage beast.
Right. Got it.
If I could just hop in for a second. A little bit distracted a minute ago. You're trying to like automate the mixing process, like what is the?
I'm just curious, how would I replicate this 90% or high hydration dough in a setting where sort of like a domino pizza, because where every dough is running through an assembly line with the machine. Because I'm watching a lot of videos how the dough machine is kind of like that machine that they use to throw football for wide receivers. It's kind of like a wheel. They push the dough out. So is there a technology out there that could treat a high hydration dough in a sense that
like everything has to be coated in Teflon?
Yeah. I mean, I think like Domino's is getting their dough shipped every morning that it's made in a warehouse somewhere. The reality is when you're working with the higher hydrations, like Noel was saying, you have such a smaller window. So everything has to be kept much colder. And, I mean, I'm sure it's doable, but the infrastructure you have to do that to like get that stuff out means that you have to have like freezer trucks and this and that to be able to like, sure it's doable if you got bottomless pockets, but like what I was saying is you need consistency. That's the most important thing. And like what Noel was saying is like take the higher hydration class to learn what the mixing style means, and then you can get a crew of people that you trust that are dough makers on.
He doesn't want a crew of people. He wants technology.
Okay.
There are a couple of Italian companies that do high hydration extruders, right? And they can go up to 90% hydration, but the base unit, the cheapest one, is probably $80,000.
Now, is that a ball extruder or is that like a dough extruder?
Dough extruder.
Okay.
I don't know what a ball extruder is. What's a ball?
Well, I'm just saying, like a baller, like that's another thing. Like you were saying.
No. So a
like,
baller, the way you're thinking, Justin, would be for like a normal dough, like 60%.
Right. That's what I'm saying. There's no such thing that works for 90%.
No, there is such a thing. But the ones that I'm talking about are called an extruder, and they will very neatly extrude 1,200 grams of dough or 600 grams of dough or 3, and then you have to very carefully finish the shaping yourself by hand. I don't know one machine that does it all.
I see.
Right, but could you extrude right into a baller that just balls your 90%?
No,
yeah, I mean, come on, it just falls right into the grandma pan or your Detroit style.
Justin, I'll put it this way: I can't do it, but you can, because you don't know that it can't be done. So you would be the guy to do it.
Well, you also talked to Greg. Greg is like, I'm going to do it 5 days bigger and just have it. It's delicious. And, and we're
talking to Reggie now. We're not talking to Greg.
No, but I'm
Reggie
saying
lives on another planet, and he's gonna figure it out. Reggie, it's the guys that don't know it can be done that'll do it.
Reggie, call me. We'll invent a robot that makes pizza 90%.
Well, you know what's funny? It's funny you guys should mention that. I can't tell you exactly what I'm doing, but I just signed a non-disclosure agreement.
Oh boy, here we go again.
With some people that are doing next level, and by next level I mean like these are the same guys that literally launch rocket ships into space, and now they're doing pizza. So I'm really excited to start working with them this next week. And when dough dorks and rocket scientists unite, be careful.
I tell you, the sky, the pie's the limit, right? There you go.
Yeah.
Huh? All right. So awesome. Great, Reg. All right, Kamei, I'm coming back over to you. Would you unmute, please, as I lower your hand?
Hi. So I would like to just hear your advice on temperature and like how I could best use my convection setting. So one question I am always wondering about is how high should the temperature be? I always preheat at 550, which is the highest that my oven goes. But then in the past, when I baked at that point, like I mentioned, it kind of dries it out. I don't know if like introducing steam would remedy that. Well, otherwise, I just bake at the 500 at lower heat to try to like counter some of that.
Let me ask you a question. What style of pizza are you looking to make? Delicious pizza,
yes.
Neapolitan pizza. Here, Josh Hernandez. Let me go back to you. So, Josh has this really cool technique that he does where he tries to make Neapolitan pizza in a home oven, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Josh, talk about the way that you make that happen, and let's see if we can shed any light.
So, the way that I do it is the most important part is you have to have a really thick stone, or you have to be willing to spend $15 every time you want to make a pizza on a new crappy thin stone, because you're going to crack it. And I cracked a lot of stones. But the idea, what you do, just like you said, you preheat to 550 with the stone, and once you're preheated, you turn your broiler on high. So what's the broiler doing, right? It's the element above. And what's nice about that is that the broiler you're bypassing your thermostat. So you can get that stone up to 700-800 degrees, if you're going for the Neapolitan style, and you want to try to get some leoparding and, you want to try to get that, bulbous cornicione. And then you can load into your oven in your apartment, and you'll be baking at nearly the temperatures that we would be baking at in a wood-fired. But you got it. What is it? California pizza stones, right?
Yeah, that's the one we like.
Yeah,
the really thick ones.
I think that.
You've got one. She's got one.
She might. Guys, another thing that you can also do. That's why I asked. Like, that's a nice thick one. It looks pretty good.
Oh yeah, what is that? An inch?
Yeah, that looks like it's
maybe
at least.
half.
What is it?
That looks like an inch.
Yeah. So guys, it really depends on the style of pizza you're looking to do. Like for instance, if you're looking to do a New York pizza, depending on what kind of New York pizza, if you look at like the best New York pizzerias, a lot of times they're baking 3, 4, 5, 6 pizzas at the same time. And all that cheese and sauce and meat and vegetables throws up a lot of steam. So if you want to do like a 9-minute bake, what I would do is put, like for instance in my oven, I would put the pizza stone on the lowest rack, and I would load some vegetables into a tray and bake so there's lots of steam in the oven. This way you can bake for a really long time without drying out your pizza. And sometimes I've done it accidentally. And so like I made some really, really nice pizzas last week at the end. And what I was actually doing was I had some focaccia that I started on the bottom rack, right on the stone. And if I left them in for the full 20 minutes, the bottom would burn. So I moved them up to the top rack and then put the pizzas in. But that whole time, that focaccia was kicking off lots of humidity into the oven. And when my wife and I ate those pizzas after class, we were like, wow, I should do that all the time. Leave something that's creating steam in the oven, whether it's bread or vegetables or almost anything. And God, it was so good. I couldn't believe it.
But don't do that if you're using the broiler trick.
Don't do that if you're gonna burn all your vegetables.
Are you baking with the broiler on?
Josh, are you baking with the broiler on? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And for how long?
It's honest. It's right around 2 minutes. It's pretty close to like wood-fired times where we shoot for like a 90-second bake. You can do it in 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And would you put the stone in the like highest rack or like just top third?
I put it like middle or top third.
Okay.
But I feel like if you're going to do this, if you're going to try this out, I'm not sure what recipe you're working off of or whatever, but I would make sure that I was using more of a Neapolitan style. Like I wouldn't have any sugar or oil in the dough if I'm blasting it at 700 or 800 degrees, because it's going to get real burny, like more than you want it to.
Yeah.
So have you made like Neapolitan style?
No, but that's always, I guess, kind of what I'm going for, between Neapolitan, New York style.
New York-Neapolitan.
Yeah.
Yeah. New York-Neapolitan. To me, New York-Neapolitan, it's almost like you make Neapolitan dough and then just cook it for longer at a lower temperature, right? And
you may want to have some malt in there. I like a little sugar or some olive oil for color.
Yeah. But if you're going to do the broiler trick, you're going to want to stick to your flour, water, salt.
We should try to do a like a home baker's like Neapolitan hack class where everybody does the broiler technique.
That sounds like a good idea.
I mean, I see people doing it a lot.
Yeah.
Kamei, you have another question?
I would totally take that class. Yes, another question. So on the opposite end, what does like cooking lower and longer do?
Well, in my understanding, I get a really crunchy pizza, not so crispy and light, but like crunchy, like Staten Island style, out of a lower hydration, long baked dough. The bar pie that we were doing with Adam Kuban was right around 58% hydration with some oil in the dough. And if you roll it out, it gets thin and crispy and beautiful. So I'm a big fan of that. I also like to go higher on hydration, like 65, 67, even 70. Right around 600, which is in between like Neapolitan and New York. Bake it for like 4 or 5 minutes, and it gets light and airy. Not like crunchy like the bar pie, but crispy and light and airy. So there's so many parts of the equation, right? There's the dough, there's the oven, there's the temperature, there's the bake time, there's the humidity, there's the convection. Josh cooks in a wood-fired oven, and he's dealing with that all the time. There's no setting for convection. You got to look at your oven and see what's going on. You got to read the smoke and see how fast it's swirling, right?
Yeah, and looking at what does the dome look like? Is the dome sooty? Well, you're too low. You need to throw some logs on.
There you go.
Not counting what the floor is doing. They're like, it's like 3 or 4 different types of heat that happen inside of a wood-fired oven. You've got like the refraction and
direct, indirect.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on.
It's fun. It is fun though.
Yeah.
It is fun if you like getting burned.
Yeah.
I stopped smoking when I started using a wood-fired oven. It was like smoking 2 packs a shift.
You were still smoking, but in a different way.
Yeah, I was. It's true. All right, guys, we are getting down to the end. Any last burning questions?
Some people.
Gary's pretty quiet over there.
We had some hacks here that people were saying instead of maybe one big stone that some people recommend doing with 2 stones, one up on top, one underneath to create, and that's that Tony Germani, the Pizza Bible Bro, he recommends that. I think that they have actually a pizza baking steel Tony Germani special 2-stone jam, and then also Don is asking any opinions on the Saputo Biscotto stones?
The what? Anybody know those?
Saputo?
No, I don't know those ones.
Yeah. Saputo stones. Here we go. Don, thank you for putting those in there. There is something in the chat. They look, these are these Neapolitan. These are really nice looking stones. Jeez Louise. Yeah. Saputo Biscotto. Looks very nice. I'll take 3 of them. Thank you. Don, just send them over. The last thing here, people are asking about what we have coming up. Have you dropped your calendar for February? Have you dropped it, dude?
I haven't even done it for January. I've been so busy. You wouldn't realize. I was supposed to have it up this weekend, but I haven't done it yet, so I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, it's the 5th.
Yeah, we're trying to figure things out because a lot of people have been taking the on-demand classes, and so I think there's still a big demand for the beginner classes. We'll probably do like 4 beginner classes this month, depending on demand. We'll probably do 1 intermediate, one advanced one, and then we're going to do some bread baking classes. We've got Adam's bar pie class coming up. It kind of depends. January is kind of a weird month. People are, I was expecting to go full throttle, but now that I see that, people are kind of having, financial issues and health issues, and who knows what's going to happen with Georgia tomorrow and the presidential election on Wednesday. So I'm kind of playing it by ear, I mean,
well played.
How can you make any plans until you know what happens in Georgia, right?
No, I think you're right. I think, unfortunately,
I don't even know if I'm going to have for breakfast on Wednesday until I find out what happens in Georgia.
Still doing the do-si-do. Right now, we've got Adam's class on Saturday.
Yeah.
And then, if anybody knows, I'm sure you guys all found Noel through the Instagram. I'm sure he'll put something up that says new classes.
I will.
New classes, all that good stuff.
I'll tell you one thing I'm going to be doing. I'm going to
be on Facebook.
3 classes with Daniele Uditi. Anybody know Daniele from Pizzana? So we're going to teach a beginner, an intermediate, and an advanced class, all 3, 2 in February and 1 in March. So a lot of what I'm doing behind the scenes is trying to corral these people, because Daniele is a really busy guy, so trying to get recipes out of him and it is really hard. I'm working with a guy named Iban Yarza, super famous a Spanish guy. He's all over the place. So he's written some really amazing cookbooks. Last time I was in Spain, I bought one of his cookbooks and was translating it as I was traveling and learning about all the beautiful Spanish bread. So I'm going to hopefully do a couple of classes with him. We're going to be doing some Argentinian style pizzas, working with a pretty famous chef out of Buenos Aires, who's actually taken some of our classes, which was pretty awesome. So, yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff coming up. We're going to continue to work with Stefano. He's in the north of Italy out of Genoa. I've been trying to get with him. He's putting in a bid on a bakery that was built in the 15th century before Columbus discovered America. All right. So right now, he just emailed me a video of imagine opening up a bakery in a building that's been around for 600 years. Crazy. I thought like a 1950s building was a problem here in LA. Imagine the 1450s. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully we're going to start working with Stefano out of his new bakery in Genoa. So that's really exciting. So lots of stuff coming up. I wish I had the whole January and February calendar online, but rest assured I'm working as fast as I can. There's a lot of fires to put out. So as soon as I get everything up, you guys will be the first to know. I'll start making an announcement on Instagram.
Also, we we do have a slew of the other classes that are going to be,
Oh yeah, Justin,
so-
how many classes did you edit in December?
I think it was like 15 or 6. I
Oh
mean,
my
we
God.
have a lot of these classes that are going to go into the Noel, you might, there might be some stuff coming out, and we're going to do a big rollout of all the
Yeah.
phase 2 and 3 of the intermediates and advanced classes, and those will be available on demand. So I know Kamei's saying if you missed the vegan pizzas with Kelly Bone, which were awesome, we had
Good.
2 of those that we did. The vegan pizzas, not veggie pizza, and what was it, the nuts one, right?
Yep.
We did
Yep.
one, so that was great. And then Reggie's also asking about the gluten-free. We've been talking to Aaron over at Authentic Foods. These are some friends of ours that have make gluten-free pizza, make gluten-free breads, and we've talked to them about doing a class as well. Correct? No?
We're definitely going to do a gluten-free class. It might even be in conjunction with Kelly Bone, so we'll see.
Oh, cool. So gluten-free and vegan. So.
And we're not doing gluten-free because people want us to. We're doing gluten-free because Authentic Foods makes awesome flour, and I think it's as good as regular pizza. It's just not regular pizza. There you go.
So
they don't make just pizza flour. They just make all kinds of flour, so you can make beautiful breads. And for me, I don't mind doing a gluten-free class with them because I think it tastes good anyway. The fact that it's gluten-free has nothing to do with anything. It's just good tasting pizza.
Yeah, and I mean, last time we were with Aaron and his father, they were making gluten-free Detroit style, and I mean, from the look of it, I mean, it was kicking it. So,
really good.
And that's, and to get any kind of life and in that doji dough when it's GF, yeah. So Lupa will be, I believe we have taking Gary, taking your pizza pop up to the next level was one of the ones that I edited. So
that's right.
Awesome.
So thank you for editing all those classes. As Justin said, we will be rolling out the on-demand classes version 2 or in probably towards the end of January.
Just in time for my birthday, everybody. My birthday's at the end of January. Did I say my birthday?
What's the date, Justin? What's the date?
January 30th, everybody.
Wait a minute. Are you going to be out of town, or is that the next weekend?
No, the next weekend I'm going to be out of town. First weekend of February, everybody's off. Just trust me.
Wait a minute. January 30th. Are we doing a class on January 30th?
No. Are we doing a class?
That's a Saturday. We might be.
Oh, boy. I have to, not yet. Not yet, anyway. So, yeah. All Coors Light, I'll take. Thanks, Gary.
All right,
oh, jeez. So,
well, anyway, I want to say thanks to you all for joining us. I always look forward to Monday nights. You never know what's going to happen, but there's always good conversation and good questions. So thank you all for joining us. I'll have the sign up again for next Monday up pretty soon. So come on back whenever you want. You are always invited. Justin?
Yeah.
Would you like to take us out?
Yeah, you know that I will. Ladies and germs, germs and ladies, cats and dogs, children of all ages. You know the dealio. We're all about that dough. I'm talking about the foundation of the doji dough. Let's take our time. Let's nurture our dough. Let's have a solid foundation that we can put whatever we want on it. Because if you do the work to nurture the dough, anything you put on it, it's going to be delicious. However, if you don't, just like anything in life, you don't take the time. How can you have a relationship? How can you be an actor? How can you do anything if you don't have a solid foundation? So that's our gig. Slow and low. That is the tempo. So please, guys, keep out there, keep making and baking and burning and learning in the immortal words of Chris Bianco. And please, 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 we're still in this all together. So please stay safe, stay strong, belong with one another. The opposite of being short, because the reality is we all belong here together. And you know what we love to say, pizza, always, even pineapple, and always pizza. Thank you, everybody. Pieces and slices. Pieces and slices.
Bye, Justin. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Good job, everyone. Thanks for all the awesome questions.
Good to see all of our friends again.